We're going to talk about assembling a steam tank kit from our steam tank sprues today. There you see it. Steam tanks are covered quite extensively in the rulebook. They're the mainstay of the North American forces, especially the U.S. Army. Rulebook lays out all the different variants, and there are many different variants, and gets into some of the heavier steam tanks, which we won't get into today. This is your sprue. All the parts for several variants are all on one sprue. There are a lot of extra pieces. Here's your side sponsons, guns, weapons, and details, and your two main body pieces. To assemble a steam tank, you're going to need a pair of side snips to cut the parts off the sprues, a sharp knife, and a couple files to clean off the plastic nubs. To use your side cutters, you just simply put it as close to the part as you can, nip it off the sprue, you're going to take your file and clean off that little plastic nib. Sometimes I just use a knife, and if you have to, just a light touch with the file, clean that up nice and smooth for you. A little bit of flash sometimes needs to be trimmed off. I just trimmed a little off the tread. And now we can start assembly. I like to use Model Master cement from Testors. It's an actual plastic solvent weldment. It's very thin. Comes in a nice needle applicator bottle so you can get precise control. I really like using Testors plastic cement. I know some folks like to assemble their plastic models with super glue. I don't really like to do that. Plastic and super glue expand and contract at different rates, and if you're not careful over time, super glued plastic kit will literally start falling apart. So the solvent cement really helps hold it all together and lasts a little bit longer, and frankly it's really easy to use. So once again, Testors Model Master cement, that's what I recommend. It's the easiest. Okay, we're going to start by assembling our two body halves. That's the upper chassis. See all the detail on that. And then this is the lower chassis. Has the interior bucket. Okay, the bottom. And I start by actually putting in the driver's hatch in that upper body. Put a little glue in the bottom. Push it into place. Actually pretty much snaps in place, but the glue will help hold it just in case. Okay. There you go, got that done. Put a little bit of glue in the boss holes for the tank. Those two nubs fit into the holes. Snap that together. Okay, and there you go, there's your chassis all assembled. I like to test fit parts. Before I put them together, here I'm putting on one of the side tracks. Slips into place nice and easy, doesn't need any trimming, no problem there. Put a little glue around the inner edge. Not a lot, just enough to hold it in place really. Once that plastic cement gets in there, it'll really will bond those parts together well. Okay, there we go. Snapping that in place. Do the other side. Okay. Make sure it seats firmly. There you go. Basic chassis is done at this point. Now, from this we can build a Mark II, Mark III, and several other variants just by picking the detail parts we add to it. Okay. Well, the chassis is drying. I'm going to build a Mark IIB out of this particular model. So I need side sponsons. There's a left and a right. There's an outer plate and an inner plate. Here, put a little glue on the bosses. Just snap them together. There we go. Set that aside to dry a little bit. Same thing on the other side, of course. There we go. Side sponsons are done. Ready to go. Okay. A little bit of glue on the inside surface. Right there. Put that in place. Hold it firm. Let the glue grab a little bit. If I wanted to, I could always substitute the doors, of course, for the side sponsons. Same process. You just glue them in. Put the other side sponson on now. If you put the glue on just the inside edge like that, it keeps it from spilling out and getting on the side of your tank. There you go. Sponsons all in. Self-aligns. There's the chassis. Okay. Well, chassis is drying. We're going to go ahead, and all of our vehicles come with tow hooks. I should just set down there. Now I'm going to put the smoke box lid on. Okay, that just fits in that hole in the back. A little bit of glue. And just snap that into place. Make sure that hinge is aligned so it's vertical. Okay, up and down. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my tow hook on. It's handy to have tow hooks on these vehicles because the rules do allow for towing your guns and stuff. Great for ambushes in the ambush section of the rules. Get your guns out of trouble from those pesky Martian tripods. There we go. Tow hook and smoke box front end. Okay. Well, that's drying. Since I'm building a Mark III, I'll go ahead and I'll glue the upper gun box together. Pretty simple, really. You got the big box, and then you got a back plate that has the door and vent detail on it. Put a little glue on there. Put that together. All done. Okay. Now, if I wasn't building the Mark III, I'd just be gluing that top chassis plate with the two doors on top, just like that. Okay. There you go. I'll glue my Mark III box in place. Boom. Okay. Getting there pretty quick now. Second or two to set up. Now we're going to start working on our guns. I have a choice of 3 different smokestacks to put on. The only difference really is aesthetic. Sometimes I like to put, on one unit, I'll put all the same length of smokestack. It helps me tell them apart a little bit better on the battlefield. In this case, I'll use a short one. Just a dab of glue. Nice little hole for that to fit into in the back. Press it in place. And I'm done. Okay, let's start taking a look at our weapons. This is a Mark III. I've got a choice of 4 different barrel styles. There's the one with the boss on it, which I usually use for Mark IIs. Again, it's simply an aesthetic difference. And then I've got 3 that are straight barreled weapons. Assembly is very easy. I literally just drop them in their holes. They're a loose fit, but actually after you get 2 layers of paint on them, they'll fit snugly enough to turn, but not to fall out. Some people like to glue them. I do on occasion. It's totally up to you. Okay. Putting the machine gun into the front hull. Got that in place. And then I put in my last gun. So there you have it. I'm really done with a Mark III at this point. But on the Sprue, you got a couple extra machine guns. You can pay the points for them in the rules if you want, but I just like them for the aesthetic reason. There isn't really a location that's golden. You can use one of 2 different methods to attach your machine guns. You can pick the spot you want and literally drill a little hole with your X-Acto knife. Or, like I'm going to do here, you can just cut the nub off. A nice flat surface. Dab of glue. I'm going to put this one up by the commander's hatch. Okay. The little machine guns are really there to, like I said, you can play points for them or just use them to kind of make your vehicles a little harder edged, I guess, in appearance. And we have a finished Mark III. Okay. Now, there are a lot of variants you can build out of the plastic kit. And we're going to show you some of those now. So that's the Mark III that we built. This is about the size. That is one of our American heavy infantry figures to give you a sense of scale. These are big tanks, but they're not as long as what a World War I tank would be, but they're not really World War I tanks. They're tanks for All Quiet on the Martian Front. That's the Mark II, the most common of all tanks in theater. This is the Mark II-B. It has guns in both side sponsons. It's just not powerful enough. It's a little bit slow. That's why they improved the engine and went to the Mark III. This is a Mark II tractor. You can see it doesn't have any guns on it, but it is designed specifically to tow other equipment. This beast is crazy. This is the Mark III support vehicle. It has 4 HMGs. Now, you wouldn't think that machine guns would be all that tough against tripods, but in this case, you got a unit of 3 of these tanks, you're going to be rolling 36 dice every time that unit gets to fire. That's 3 dice per machine gun, 4 machine guns per tank. Quite devastating, especially against infantry. And of course, later on, we'll talk about the really big steam tanks like the Mark IV, but it gives you a sense of the size of the tanks for All Quiet on the Martian Front.